Frank,
Dynamite.
Frank, come on, man. Can I Be Frank is all about capturing real, authentic, unedited conversation.
Excuse me.
So you were saying though about this mental, or that during the study, so you have to you go through all that then.
Yeah,
it's not just
absolutely.
5 years is a dedication. 5 years is really.
Yeah.
So you've obviously studied beforehand.
Yeah, well, late enough to study. Like, I just pissed my way through my first degree when I was, I finished when I was 20, and
Right.
it was just, I had no clue, and I didn't take it seriously, and then I left it till, late in life. I went back to my HDIP when I was like 26 or something, and then
Right.
at that stage you're like,
HDIP is higher diploma. Is that?
Yeah.
Is that because you wanted to teach? Who you're teaching?
No,
Yeah.
no. That was I wanted to do something kind of psychology, so
Okay.
psychoanalysis, which is all about sex. So I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of fun, and hence why it kind of
Evolved into that. Yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
fucking. To sit down and go, right, I'm going to do this, and it's going to take me 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot,
Yeah.
but it's so much better. Like, full time is. It used to be 3 years, and now I think they kind of give you 4, but they expect you to teach as well, and it's just, you've no time for life as well. Like, if any life event happens, you're kind of automatically going to be behind. Whereas at least with the part-time, you can work a bit as well, and if any life events happen, you have a bit of time to recover and kind of, breathe, I suppose. So, yeah, it's a different category.
So you've how long to go?
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay. Well, I mean, there's no go. I mean, you're there. Well,
Getting there.
you're
Right now.
you're well on the way. So you've done
Yeah.
3.5 years.
Yeah. It's amazing how quick it goes.
That's great though, knowing that it does. But I mean, you're enjoying it though.
Yeah.
It's not like what is the title of it?
So it's an exploration of the experiences of women working in the American porn industry, and how those experiences compare with what feminists say about the porn industry and porn experiences. So you're looking at...
So it's kind of like you're looking at the balances, or no?
Kind of, yeah. Like, you're looking at that idea of all... Like, a lot of anti-porn feminists would say all porn actresses are abused.
Yeah.
So you're looking at how they can make those statements, what evidence is there for it, what are the implications of making statements like that, and where that relationship between power, sex and knowledge all comes into it. Like,
It's so fucking topical
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Is this? I mean, that whole area. Obviously, the porn is one side of it, but the whole area of power and sex and fucking. I mean, it is really. Does it come up all the time now with you, with conversations?
yeah, and my social media is kind of flooded with it, and it's just kind of very everywhere. Like, there's no
Yeah.
break from it ever, I don't think, at the moment, which is good because it's a necessary conversation that we need to be having. You know, it's like, it's time. It feels like we're on this lovely cliff edge of, like, we're finally gonna make a leap and make some change, hopefully.
Yeah.
So as painful as that process is going to be for everyone kind of involved in it. So yeah.
And what do you think that is the? What do you think that is, that change? Like, you know, when you look at it, what would you like it to be?
Oh, that, like, we could actually have more honest conversations about sex and desire and how humans interact when sex is on the table, and how we can actually work towards mutual pleasure and take out the nastiness and the rape and the sexual assault, like Oprah's speech. Maybe there will be a day when no one gets sexually assaulted anymore, so hopefully we'll get to that someday. But yeah, to have those conversations about this, like, we might have thought this was normal, like the kind of, you know, that trope of like, you know, oh, if you just kind of persist a little bit, like women want to be chaste, and it's like, no, like if someone wants to actually have sex with you, they'll let you know. They'll actually, it'll be enthusiastic consent rather than, you know, you have to win them over, you have to nag them into it, you have to be gotten, you know, rather than freely given. So it's that kind of changing that mindset about it. So. And
what do you think of Catherine Deneuve last week?
Yeah.
Did you read the article about what she said?
I didn't read it because I was just furious and burnt out, and I was just, it's hard going. It's a lot of, it just reminds me of that stuff. Do you know, if someone gets accused of something and their exes come out and say, well, he didn't rape me, so he couldn't have raped her. And it's like, rapists don't go around raping everyone. The same way murderers don't go around murdering everyone.
No, she didn't actually. She didn't really say that. I suppose we go back to the idea of what you're talking about there, and maybe come back to that. But I mean, it felt to me somewhat balanced. Is there a balance? You know, so in other words, you know, when you're saying we need to be able to talk about.
Yeah.
There's certain things we just, at the moment, everybody is wary, I feel, of saying. I was talking to this guy yesterday, and he was saying there's certain things we just don't, we're almost afraid to talk about now.
Yeah.
In terms, say the George Hook thing, or, I mean, first of all, that people should be allowed to talk and then be educated in the right way, because the other way of one opinion being forced down, I think, is like it's dodgy ground, it's dangerous ground for everybody. I think
it's difficult because we're not used to it, so you can kind of, you might say the wrong thing inadvertently, but just because we don't really have those tools in language, like look at Irish society, we don't talk about pleasure in any good sense of the word. So talking about the negative side of sex,
dirty is the word.
Dirty or naughty, which is one of my bugbears and stuff.
Naughty seems to be not so bad. Dirty, filthy, dirty article.
Naughty
all that.
Is still saying that it's like sex is something bad or secret or shameful, or be your naughty secret, and it's like, no, just be happy about it and stuff. But so,
you see, that empowers it though, isn't it, as well? When something is a bit naughty, it's almost a little bit more powerful then. It's kind of a bit more exciting. People like that sort of thing.
That's true as well. But I just, why can't we just be happy about pleasure? We have a long way to go for the whole Catholic guilt thing to go away and stuff as well. But like, I think, we don't really have the tools, and especially men don't as well, because of like toxic masculinity and the way our culture is set up and stuff, that like men don't talk as much and they're not in tune with their emotions, and women have talked about this for a long time, and it's just like we need to bring everyone to the table now and kind of empower everyone to have honest conversations, and it'll take a bit of work, you know, to kind of go with that.
Yeah, because I find it kind of I definitely don't have the tools to talk about it, but because in my mind it's obvious, the monster power trip, right? That we'd say that is kind of is it the exception? To me, I would have thought it's the exception. You just don't know anybody like that. You were sitting downstairs and you go to a nightclub, you're not comfortable. You know,
and like every time I've gone to a nightclub, it's like guys do that thing where they'll grope your ass and then pretend it wasn't them and stuff. And it's like, what does that actually achieve? Apart from making that woman feel uncomfortable, and as well as sexually assaulting her as well. So it's just those kind of things of reminders that you're not, your body is, you know, like people feel entitled to touch your body without your consent. Those kind of little things, and they're like little kind of microaggressions, as we kind of say. It's not as upfront, say, as like, you know, obvious groping and stuff. It's just kind of, it comes in various forms and stuff, and people think like the Harvey Weinsteins of the world are like the problem, but this happens in everyday life, and it's that kind of issue of nagging people into sex and stuff, and you know, kind of putting pressure on people and then talking about them, well, you should have done this and you should have done this, and it's all those kind of little things, and they all add up, and that's where we need to kind of attack those kind of attitudes and stuff as well. So it's complicated and painful work, but
but it's still very very interesting in that sense though. You see, I suppose maybe I'm just a bit fucking naive, and maybe the people that I know say lads are lads, and we'll talk the way we talk. If on a stag do, or we're out in a club, we'll talk the way we talk, and it's not like it's not popular you don't want anybody overhearing it, but we'll all laugh and it's fun. And I mean, I can't deny that that's not the way I would talk. But in saying that, no, in terms of breaking the line of touching somebody where you shouldn't go to touch them, I suppose it's the balance of the whole thing. I tried to get my head around. I mean, that to me, then you're invading somebody's space. Yeah. And that's just you're wrong. Yeah. And you know you're wrong. Absolutely. You have to know there's something part of you to go and you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah. But basic common decency of like, don't touch other people without their consent. Like that should be a basic standard of respect in our society. Yeah. It's still not there, but yeah. It's going to get in there. But it's those kind of things like that's what we need men to stand up and go, I don't like the way you're talking about people like that. Whether it's women or other people or, you know, if you're out on, like the whole locker room talk thing that Trump kind of came out with and stuff, like it's not okay. And it's like that's where, like, women are tired of doing all this work and we need men to kind of stand up and go, that's not okay. So,
but in that frame of mind, is it not just saying that, do you think one breeds the other? Because like, I think, well, first of all, everybody should be allowed to talk the way they're talking as long as they're not harming anybody. That's in my little fair barometer of the world. And so whatever way you talk, that doesn't inflict pain. And if you know the difference between having a messing, lads messing, because then... I don't know either now. And this is just the idea that somebody would say to me, well, no, you can't talk like that because it's not respectful. I go, well, I'm not really being disrespectful to anybody. I'm just talking about something.
But then it's kind of taking that moment and going, am I? Like, and actually questioning and going, is that actually disrespectful? Because we do, like, we've used, you know, society's gone through phases where certain words were okay and we didn't see anything wrong with it and stuff. And you know, it's only when it kind of gets pointed out and we think about it and go, actually, no, that's not okay to do that and to refer to people like that. So it is that self-reflecting, and that's what people are finding difficult to do, because then it means, am I part of the problem? And that's hard for a lot of people to accept that, you know, or it's like, have I pressurized someone into sex before, and what does that make me? And a lot of people can't handle that conversation with themselves because, you know, do you want to brand yourself as a rapist? That's hardly what most people are going to accept about themselves, you know.
But it's sugar.
Wrecking the place.
This looks like it's okay. It's a huge jump from say conversation or messing or joking to what you described there, and it's kind of like I don't think they're the same.
They're not the same way. It's kind of, you look at it like jigsaw pieces, you know, it's all laying the ground, like what normalizes something else, you know, it like, do rape jokes normalize the incidents of rape afterwards? Like it's kind of like a pyramid. So if you look at like the bottom, it's like what normal conversation is there, and then it comes into actions at the top. Yeah, well, now rape jokes are a totally different thing. Exactly. But I suppose I'm trying to, in my simple little brain, what I'm kind of, here's what I'm curious to know what you think. If I can articulate this, I am kind of, first of all, I don't think actually, I think women don't necessarily need men to stand up for them. They actually just need men to get out of the way and stop being dicks to them in the situations that they are. Yeah. And I think, whereas if that's another thing, women are helping, or men are helping women, then it's more of the lads trying to, somebody almost controlling the woman. Whereas, you know, just fucking live and let live. And so I suppose what I'm trying to figure out is I live simply, and that's but I have a simple way of looking at things, right? And in that I kind of go well, there's a balance obviously. So if 80% of people are okay, and there's the 20%, but you're kind of giving me an impression that it's almost higher than that, that it's that the default for men is bad almost. Is that no, and that's so what I'm looking for is just the balance. If you talk, like, there's no woman that I don't know that hasn't been sexually assaulted in various degrees, whatever that constitutes for them. Or, you know, we see with the Me Too movement, like the level of women that like have kind of stood up and went, this has happened to me too, whether they mean sexual harassment at work or sexual assault or the massive spectrum kind of in between and stuff. And it's like, it's obviously like touched a nerve, and there's been such a huge response to it, like worldwide, that stood up. So we're not saying it's like it's every man, but men still have a responsibility if they see something like that to be like, that's not okay. You know?
I think any dude that I knows, well, I'm only talking from my small circle, and from me, you see somebody acting aggressively towards a girl or using, or, you know, or groping, fucking doing nothing like that. I mean,
that's when you're
that's
like,
a
dudes,
wallop
you're being
there.
an asshole.
You're being an asshole there.
Yeah, exactly.
And
rather than condoning that and going, oh, go on, you know, a bit more. And
well, then you're part of it then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But I think, so what's your sense of then, like, is it more that so there's say at the primary top end of assholes, right?
Yeah.
So there is those power assholes who just don't care and are going to do it and whatever.
Do it no matter what.
And there is assholes on the female side.
Absolutely.
And it's a different sort of energy. It's different. It works in a different way, but it is assholic.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, say there's the rest of us just trying to fucking hang around, get by, trying to figure out, not be awkward, not offend, but not be meek. And in that frame, but obviously for the Me Too thing, if I'm that the majority of women just feel, well, fuck this. Like I actually feel the same way. I just don't want this groping thing anymore, and I'm entitled to say it. Is that what it is?
It's kind of a feeling of we've just had enough. Just had enough, and it's so systematic though as well. It's, you know, like the case in Ireland, like I think something like 1% of rape cases get a guilty verdict and all those kind of things, and
1%,
something extremely low like that. Now it might not be right in the 1%, but it's something between 1 and 5 or something like that. It's really low. So it's that kind of systematic approach of, you know, if you're going to the guards, it's like still those questions of what were you wearing and all those kind of things, and so it's that systematic thing where it's like this starts with like the people we're dating, it starts with the systems we go through. It's like how women move through the world, how we're represented in media, how, you know, our experiences when we try and change the world. Are you kind of shot down, or like those women that stood up to Harvey Weinstein were blacklisted, and, you know, their whole careers are ruined, and there's so many female talents there that we didn't get to hear from because they stood up for it. So it's all those kind of things, and it's just every woman I know has stories. Like absolutely every woman, and some men as well, obviously as well, you know. And it's not just, you know, towards women and stuff. That's, we have to be really inclusive and have those awkward conversations that include everyone and all experiences. But overwhelmingly it does seem to be male perpetrators onto female victims. So
when it comes to sex, seems to be that.
Absolutely. And like that's, again, it's always like, what about the women? Of course women do that as well. It just doesn't seem to be to that same level, you know. I was more, when I was talking about assholic women, I was talking it's a different sort of a thing. It's not necessarily sexual. It's just a different sort of a thing. It's a different attitude. But what was I going to say? You say, I suppose, again, like come back to the say kind of simple way. Where does it go? Do you have an idea in your mind? Like, say we still want to be able to play. Like if I'm a single man and we're not in the world, you still want to kind of go out to a club and have the flirt and the playfulness, which is part of part of who we are. That's exactly. And it's part of who women are as well.
It is absolutely, you know,
that. Like that expression, or that idea that women don't want sex and stuff. It's like we do. We'll ride you sideways just once it's consensual, and just, you know. So that's the thing. So it's like, absolutely, flirt, absolutely, as long as they want it. And if they don't want it, it's like learning to read those signs. Are they backing away from you? Are they not taking the drink? Don't buy women drinks. We don't know what's in it. We have those horror stories. Don't do that. So it's a case of just, absolutely flirt. Just make sure the person you're flirting with wants it. Like, are they saying, no, get away from me? Have you stuck your hand up their skirt as an introduction? Don't do that either. Like, all those kind of things of basic decency, and it just seems to be basic, you know, of just go and make sure the person wants
I was talking to Emma Dorn, and Emma Dorn was kind of, I was saying about, you know, teaching my daughter, well, you know, she needs to watch out for fucking men and all this, and she said, no, you need to teach your sons not to be fucking assholes, not that.
Like,
don't
we
be
teach
telling them that
women-
all men are evil and assholes. That's not just teach your sons to be fucking
not
smarter.
to be part of it.
Yeah.
Like, so you teach women all the time, don't get raped. Don't walk down the street, you know, on your own at night. Don't do this. And it's like, teach our children, our male children, not to rape others. Like, I mean, and then you don't have to, like, make women live in that kind of state of fear, you know, and that kind of constant... What is that? I forget who said it was. The worst thing that will happen to a man on a date is that he'll get laughed at. The worst thing that will happen to a woman on a date is she'll be raped and murdered. So that's what we kind of live with, you know. It's like, if we get into a car with someone, are we going to get back out of the car?
Is that threat
kind of
there,
thing.
is it?
It's for a lot. In my dating days and stuff, I wouldn't have taken a lift off anyone or anything like that. And there is that thing of like, I'll be polite to get out of this situation because I don't know how they're going to take a no. So, you know, you kind of go along, and that's where things kind of get hard to kind of view as well, because if you have someone that's laughing along to get out of it, it's a complicated kind of situation. But yeah, it is. Yeah, and I know many women with stories like that and stuff, but again, just like just make sure the person is consensual. And it's that thing of enthusiastic consent, you know, of just make sure, like, if a woman wants to have sex, she'll let you know. She'll be an active, willing, enthusiastic partner. Well, anyone will. It doesn't matter of gender.
Yeah.
You know, but if they're lying there and not enthusiastic about it, or not responding well, or just kind of, you know, you have to read body language and stuff. And
well, is that not a total lack of fucking empathy and lying to yourself? Like, I mean, you know whether somebody's into you or not. I mean, you can get that sense. The energy is there. Now, maybe how you're totally deleting reality if you're fucking... You're not getting reality, and you have no problem in hurting somebody then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jordan, there's a guy called Jordan Peterson. He's... I kind of refer to him a bit now lately, but he's sort of conservative. Okay. I don't necessarily agree. Some of his things are kind of really simple. His philosophies to life are like clean your fucking house before you go out and try and do anything else in the world, or, you know, take personal responsibility for yourself, for your work, and it's conservative. But he was commenting on all the problems that are happening now, and he said something like, well, I mean, maybe it's a case of going back to old values, and that sex is only allowed within marriage. What do you think of that?
That's
I know,
an extreme reaction over their point of view, but like that. Yeah, no. Why do you need to be married? You can whore around all you want, like have sex with 1,000 people if you want to. Yeah. Just make sure it's consensual. Yeah. It's not that difficult. So that's a real moralistic.
Oh, I mean, I didn't. And when you put it out there as it's good to hear these. I mean, it's somebody trying to come up with a solution, but I think it's reference to the past to try and find a solution, which isn't a way to get a solution. And it's kind of looking into like what's good sex and bad sex and shame and stuff, you know, and it's like. And it kind of implies there's no rape or sexual assault within marriage either, and of course there is, you know, and just, it's just that control of like, this one person who you're legally tied to will never hurt you, and it's like, that's nonsense, as we know. So, whore around, just be consensual. Yeah, it's such a fucking, like, it's a minefield. It seems to be coming up everywhere. What do you think of everybody wearing black? Did you like that whole thing of them all wearing black?
I did and I didn't. Like, first of all, it's like, it was a great start to something, you know, and it was like, again, it was women who drove it and women who kind of came up with it, and they came up with the Time's Up initiative as well. But I felt everyone who what were they? The Emmys,
the Globes,
like the people who were speaking at it were women, and it's like, we're tired of it. We've spoken enough. We need the men to speak up and also say we're not going to do this anymore. Like, you had people like Justin Timberlake, and he was like, oh, we're wearing Time's Up and we're wearing black, and it's like, but you just finished a movie with Woody Allen, who is charged with raping his stepdaughter or daughter, Dylan, and it's like, you can't, you know, so the words are nothing if the actions aren't behind it and stuff. Like, how is Woody Allen still making movies and stuff? But also at the Golden Globes, they honoured, was it Kirk Douglas, who has a massive history of sexual assault and rape, some of which he's admitted and all the rest. And then I think Gary Oldman won something, and he's accused of punching his wife in the face while she was ringing the cops to try and get them dressier while his children witness this. And so it's kind of going, the women are standing up, for this, but we're still honouring abusive, violent men. So there's that real disconnect there and stuff. So it needs to not just be women's efforts, because we've done this. Women have set up domestic violence shelters for how many years now, decades now, and there's still domestic violence. So it needs to be men having that conversation with other men of going, stop doing this, actually casting out people for being assholes, and not encouraging them.
I don't like this whole fucking thing that it's over in the night and we'll all wear black. First of all, I don't like the fact that you had to. There was this almost, will we have to wear black now? And if you don't wear the black, then that seems like you're not agreeing with it. So you're trying to force this uniformity of view and perspective, whereas it is a fucking complex thing at its core. All that's required is a bit of respect. That's the simplistic answer.
Absolutely.
And you see, this idea of men, I see some men talking out about it, and I kind of go, you just fucking sort yourself out, mate. You don't need to go and I actually think you were saying that you need men. I think you just need men to take personal responsibility, and then you don't need them to speak out for women, because then it's.
I'm not speaking out for women.
Okay.
Just speaking about men's actions themselves. Don't be the white knight saving women. We don't need to be saved. We're not helpless victims. But just call your bros in, as the young hip millennial would say, and just have those conversations. You don't have to be preaching, but you just need to. If you see someone being an asshole, go.
It's like Brad Pitt. I fucking hate talking about celebrities like they're somebody, but it's only because there's stories, and I don't have as many stories of people that I know. But say Brad Pitt would have been aware that Angelina was harassed. Now, if that was me and somebody harassed my wife, I'd be real old school. I'd fucking call that person out, and I'd go absolutely insane. Now, he didn't, from what I get the impression of. Why? Because he's protecting, celebrity, protecting. That's the fucking problem. If you have a respect for power. I have to flick it every 30 minutes. If you respect power too much, that's the problem.
We made a choice, didn't we, in that situation, to respect Weinstein and what Weinstein could do for his career, rather than his actual wife.
Is that the case? That seems to be the case.
That's what it comes down to, isn't it? It's because if my husband did something like that, I'd be like, why am I with you? You blatantly don't respect me enough, and you're on some level you're kind of saying it's okay what that person has done to you. That's on some level that's what the message really is. Well,
that's weak fucking men as well, though. I mean, so it's equally both. Well, is it both? I kind of wonder, why exactly then is it more important to get this big fancy career because you want you lack something so badly that you need this celebrity status, and that you're willing to sacrifice your own confidence and your own
which is more important to you, money on your own personal stuff or silencing other people? It's that kind of balance, and maybe we're at a point in the world where we might start showing that basic respect. Hopefully.
And say, for example, let me see how I can frame this question. I'm just curious to know. Say I'm George Hook. Okay.
Okay.
And I have just said to you, what about personal responsibility? Now you can let loose at George Hook right now. What do you?
Keep calm.
With the view of no. I won't say that it's in the purpose of having a conversation about. He has just said to you, "Come on, Caroline. What about personal responsibility here?
What about men not raping? And it's all that focus as well on it's the same question as what domestic violence victims get asked, why didn't she leave? It's the question needs to be, why are they abusing people? That's where the question kind of needs to be and stuff. And it's also, how traumatizing was that for so many people who've been through that experience and kind of have been through that with their family and their friends and in their own mind and stuff of, why didn't I leave? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And stuff. And it's that's not the issue. The issue is, why was that other person doing that to you in the first place? So that's where you need to kind of refocus that question back on that.
Yeah.
And so for him saying stuff like that, it kind of normalizes it a bit again of like...
But that's a great... your first reply
Yeah.
is the fucking reply. Well, why do men keep raping?
Yeah.
That's it. But then you can say, okay, well, let's have this awkward chat now. And he might be able to go... I'm not saying he would, but he might be able to go, well, yeah, I mean, you have a good point there. I don't really know, I have an answer to that.
Yeah.
And I was stupid question.
That's the thing. And it just, like, it took for Dill to stand up against, and she's now lost her radio show because she protested, these comments being acceptable on the air and stuff. And now he's back on the air and she's lost her radio show. So it's like, again, that kind of power imbalance, and what does that really say, and what message does that send out, to a society, that if you stand up against this, you're punished, essentially, for that. And it's just, the question is, why are we saying these comments?
But you see, say, this is the conversation I had with Declan yesterday, was that if you can't bring it into the fucking, if you can't bring it into the light, these sorts of conversations, then you can't ever change his opinion. Yeah. So you can't ever, if he can't ask you that, then you can't ever say to him, well, why do men rape George? Yeah. And so, in that scenario, then we're both fucked because we're both afraid. Now, say, for example, it's pretty apparent he's a bit ignorant. He needs education. Now, as somebody else said to me, he's a broadcaster, he should know better. But if the core problem is what you're talking about, it's everywhere. Yeah. And if the core problem then is ignorant men, so then when you have an ignorant man asking an ignorant question, he should ask it with the openness that can then be conversed, and then maybe at the end of it he never asked that question again.
Yeah. I mean, if you had an hour-long radio special of going, why do we ask these questions, and have it from an educational point of view, and have people on who can actually articulate those kind of answers and look at like the impact of it and talk about why, because on the surface it seems like an okay question to ask, because you kind of would, we haven't had these conversations a lot in Irish society and stuff, but then if you looked at it does look into like victim blaming, and a lot of people are like, what's victim blaming? So we're new to these kind of conversations, like, we are, so there is space for people to work through those kind of questions. And I think a lot of people, once you do explain that to them, they would be like, okay, I get it now, and I get why that's not an okay thing to ask, and I get why the conversation needs to be changed and stuff. But it's kind of how it's done.
It is how it's done, but I suppose for me, it's maybe I'm more passionate about the idea of free fucking speech, whatever it may be, with the view, not I'm right or you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. Yeah. But okay, the conversation can be had with in that fucking communication. Then maybe resolution can happen. Maybe some sort of a
free speech, but one that free speech that doesn't harm someone. And he did cause harm with his comments, because that impacted a lot of people who'd been through that and who had been asked that by people in their lives, and it might have re-traumatized a lot of people and gone through it. So George Hook is kind of one part of the problem, but if we need to kind of filter old school it back down, he is. He's like the definition of a dinosaur for many, many reasons. But if you filter it back down and we bring it down to like kids in school learning about basic consent and learning like what you can do to other people and what you can't do to other people. So just like educating people like George Hook is a whole different ballgame to educating our new generation coming up, and how we're raising people in this new world that we're all trying to navigate and everything else and stuff, and just bringing that conversation in a healthy, respectful way, so that in 20 years we won't be asking like, why did she stay? We will be asking, why are you choosing to continue to abuse a woman? And that will be the question, and it won't even enter anyone's head to ask, why does she stay? Because we'll have that understanding about it. So it does come down to education, and education at like a young level for in age appropriate terms and stuff, but just like making those resources available and stuff. And just
with the saying that then, so I have my 11-year-old and 10-year-old, they're rapidly coming towards the internet, porn,
social media and all the rest.
It's coming. And I kind of want to know, I'm racking I have these, I'm actually going to put together a presentation for life. And so that at least I feel, well, I have no responsibility, but That's bullshit. But what I kind of want to know, what would you say then to an 11-year-old, 10-year-old, then it's 12, 13, 14, the world is open to them. Like apparently I was hearing that people now women are obsessed about giving fucking spectacular blowjobs because they see it there, and lads are obsessed with having a big enough penis, I'm able to say it, and they're obsessed with it because what they're seeing from a really young age is this phenomenal performance and screeching of epic proportion. So anyway, sorry. So this is what do you do? Where do you even begin with
it's
this?
It's having conversations to go and look. It's not real. It's like the way we don't expect everyone to be an Olympic athlete if you start running, and all that. So it's or amazing Hollywood, whatever and stuff. So it's having those conversations going, this isn't real. Those penis sizes in porn are not normal. There's a massive spectrum and all the rest, and that's acting and it's consensual and blah 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 blah, and actually talking about the place porn has in society and maybe pointing them to better porn, for want of a better word, and stuff. So and again, having conversations about consent, and that's like porn does play a bit of part of the problem of that trope of you meet a woman in the street and you might grab her a bit and she'll resist and then eventually she'll give in to sex. But that's in mainstream Hollywood as well. The old cowboy films where they'll rescue the woman and you grab her and she doesn't want to kiss you and then she does, and so that's been a part of our society for like a long time.
He's won her over.
That's it. So it's like, like I'd love to see more porn where they were like, I do want to have sex with you, let's go, rather than have to be coerced into it and stuff. So having those conversations about, look, this is healthy and this is unhealthy, and here's how, like to have those conversations. Like there are resources out there. There's great books about teaching kids about boundaries and bodily boundaries and conversational boundaries and just respect. Like it comes down to basic respect, and also to like explore how to communicate as well. So that's a big one that, especially in Ireland, we're completely missing, and how we communicate during sex and how we communicate what we want. Like, do we even know what we want ourselves? Like, because we don't have those tools to kind of explore that. And coming from a society which shames you for having any sexual thoughts whatsoever. Thanks, Catholic Church. We have a long way
Thanks
to
for
go
making it dirty.
still. And just, like we're not that far past the Magdalene laundries and stuff. So, but we are getting there, and there's so many good resources, and there's a lot of healthy social media pages. Like a lot of my Instagram now is like following like feminist accounts, and they're talking about sex and how like you can navigate that, and it's amazing to see that. Like I had none of that growing up and stuff, so, and they're run by like 20-year-olds, and it's like, wow, you're giving me hope for the future. This is amazing.
Well, it does, everything changes, cycles change, you would have thought.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of finding it. It's there. It's just finding those healthy resources, because like you as a parent, I'm sure, had a completely different sex education back in your day.
Everything was dirty and everything was fucking...
Absolutely. And the sex education they're getting nowadays, it's still not going to be adequate enough because the schools are controlled by the Catholic Church. So you are still looking at outside resources and stuff, but there's good stuff out there, and just it's an awkward conversation to have, like especially if you're not used to it and you're all of a sudden having to talk to your children about masturbation and consent and like porn literacy skills. So it's like teaching them that what you're seeing isn't actually real, and it's just hyper inflated fantasy kind of world that like some people have that fantasy and many others don't, and all those kind of things. Well,
it is really interesting though. I mean, because we're relative babies in terms of the internet and technology and how we interact with it. We're still it's infancy stage, and it's become like I've been thinking about this hugely lately, this idea that this so say social media and porn are almost similar in the sense that they are once removed from the real interaction. So, I mean, you can't beat, when you spend time with somebody, one way or another, your energy is kind of affected socially, and but in hopefully in a good way. But say like with sex as well, it's so fundamentally different than the porn trawl, we would say.
Absolutely.
And it's it's an interesting thing to see where I can fucking talk to them about it.
But even like social media, you know, all the Fitspo stuff and the bloggers, and they all live these amazing airbrushed lives and stuff. So it's still having those kind of conversations of that's not real either.
Yeah, same. So it is the same idea. It's not
stuff,
real.
And we need to have that with Hollywood stuff. That's not real either.
Real, yeah.
And like, boy doesn't meet girl and they fall in love and have flawless sex and all the rest, and not a hair out of place and no wet patches in the bed and all the rest. And
but actually you said it there really clearly though in my mind. It is that I think it is possible that social media could become this it's not real, it's not, I mean, maybe if you've nothing else going on in your life, you can go and look at that. And if you have no chance of getting a bit of sex, then and I mean obviously it can be a compliment to both. But then you've got porn and it's interesting that now.
It's just kind of navigating that world. That's the world we live in nowadays, where everything's one click away. Whether it's Fitspo skinny stuff or porn or idealized relationships in Hollywood or, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's also so positive as well. Like social media, you know, it's great for, you know, queer people that didn't have those resources before and that can find that community, and just, you know, like 20-year-olds running amazingly successful feminist blogs, and it's just it's amazing. And like I don't like that thing of like, oh, it's all negative, it's all negative.
I totally agree with you.
It's positive for so many things. And
it absolutely is. It's just the overuse. It is like anything. The overuse and abuse of it is the problem.
Like, what is it? We spend 8 hours a day on our phones or something like that, and we're all getting a creak in our neck because we're all, you know, looking down and stuff. But I mean, that's
but I think we are kind of coming out of it as well. I mean, it is phenomenal bit of technology, and I think we have been mesmerised by it for the last few years, but some of us have. I'm probably one of those fucking assholes. But so then, now that you're 3.5 years into your PhD, the world, you're nearly finished, the world of porn, you know, in that, where does that fit in the world where it's fucking... You know what I mean. The question is in itself; it doesn't need explanation. Where does it fit? Or how do you feel about all that then?
It's definitely been a journey. It's absolutely been the biggest learning curve for so many reasons, not just the world of porn and stuff. But it's fascinating how, it's an amazing... Porn is this amazing tool that you can learn so much about human society about, and not just porn itself, but how people talk about porn. And that's why I'm interested in, of just, you know, those people who are saying all porn is X, Y, Z, whatever it is, if it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And I kind of think, why? You know, why are you saying that? And what level of control are you having around the conversation? And whose truth is true? You know, and who's believed about the experiences of porn? And, you know, are all 10-year-olds watching porn, and what do we do about it? And all those kind of questions. You go into these little rabbit holes of postmodern thought of going, there's no truth to any of this, because there's so many different experiences. And then you call your supervisor up and go, help. I'm stuck in a rabbit hole of like, where am I going? But it's an amazing thing to look at, because porn is unapologetic, it's graphic, it's in your face, there's body fluids, you know, it doesn't hide away, and it forces you to have conversations about sex and porn and representation and feminism and history and society and media and all these kind of things. So it's an amazing tool for just exploring so many aspects of human experience, and just how uncomfortable people are around sex, or overly comfortable, or traumatized by it, or want to control it. And that's like what interests me as well, of like that control around sex and its representation as well. And it's fascinating, exhausting, and fascinating.
Will you now? I mean, you were saying downstairs about the porn awards, which I'd love to talk about a little bit. But do you think porn now? You know, I'm sure, because obviously you're looking at the feminist view about it, objectifying women, I'm sure. So then, how does that work with you? Do you think it's, and the simple question, do you think porn is good?
There's no such thing as a simple question.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's no such thing as a simple answer.
Exactly.
More so,
You know, you have to look at what kind of porn are you talking about.
Right.
You have to look at how people are using it, who's using it, you know, how is it being consumed, what meaning are people giving to it and how it's interpreted, and it's all this kind of thing. So we need to move away from those simplistic approaches, because that's what we've had. It's like, porn is bad, porn causes this, porn does this, and it's like, that doesn't help our conversation, because human life isn't so simple and stuff. And people approach any form of media with all their own issues and stuff. So it's kind of looking at, like, that's the thing, it's so big an industry as well, and there's so many types, and you know, Japanese porn's so different, and the culture around it is so different, and you know, and then sex work can take so many different forms as well, but it gets all convoluted. Like, porn is considered the same as prostitution, and it's completely different, and you know, someone who's a sex worker in LA is going to have a completely different experience to someone who's a sex worker in India and in the slums. So it's like looking at all those nuances and like not applying the same standards of experience.
Yeah, it's not just.
So,
and is it?
So,
do you find it? Can it be too much studying all this and because there's the dark side of it?
Absolutely, yeah. It gets. I have to take some time off social media and stuff sometimes because if you're looking at, like, I had one time where I was looking at the question of does porn cause rape, and my whole feed was full of, you know, celebrity rape stuff at the time, and then my work at the time is dealing with a lot of rape cases, and it was just so much. It was just it's so negative and supportive, and that's why like I'm a big arguer for my brain's not working anymore. Advocate, there we go, got there in the end, for people studying this kind of stuff to have extra counselling and support and stuff, because it's difficult when you're on your own doing this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not in a team of people. I'm known as the sex person in my little research hub, because they're all doing, you know, normal stuff in a lab and stuff. So it's it can be difficult, like, because you are dealing with massive, like, reflections on society and who you are as a woman, and what are your feminist views, and you have people attacking you for your views, and it's really a heated discussion. And you know, people who say, well, porn doesn't have to be all bad, it's like you're part of the pimp lobby and you hate women and you're a bad influence on women and all this kind of thing, and you're just like, well, that's really interesting as well, of, you know, that control of who gets what can people say about porn. That's what's interesting as well. And can you say porn has good aspects, and who's going to listen to that and who's going to accept that statement? So it's big kind of high level concepts, and sometimes you just need to switch your brain off and look at fluffy kitten videos.
I can imagine, because you can
get that sorted.
You almost get lost in. You could get lost in it, and then start to go, oh, it's so fucking fucked up. And even for you to kind of go, well, trying to stay balanced in that world where you would get that view of, where the fuck you, I mean, it's just wrong, you're just wrong, and blah blah blah.
Absolutely. And it's like, you find communities, though. That's what's really good. I've gotten to travel a lot. Like, I've gotten to go to a conference in LA a few times, and there's people there who are sex workers of all different persuasions, and there are people who have, like, set up centers for, like, positive sexuality studies, and all these amazing people who've done amazing things. Like, someone who's setting up a sex shop in the middle of Utah, and you're like, how's that working? How for you? Tell me how the Mormons and all that kind of approach that. So it's just finding community, and there's amazing community out there, and people doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And the
Mormons, you know? Just go on and elaborate there a little bit.
She was setting up a sex shop in the middle of, like, Salt Lake City or something, and I was like, how's that working out? Because I think they have a thing where if you masturbate, it's a sin and all that kind of thing. So I was like, how's that working? Are you selling any sex toys and stuff? And she wasn't, but
she wasn't.
No, it was just lingerie and stuff like that. Okay. So, but you never know. she might kind of get there. But I admire those kind of people who are taking those stands, and they believe in it so much, you know, that they're like, my little world, wherever it is, needs this, and they go off and do this amazing thing. So it's an amazing world. So not just all the negative, horrible, overarching stuff. You know?
Like, I wonder, does it all come from this idea of fucking control? Like, at the very, very, very top end, how does say it's free, and we're all out in the fields, and it's just fucking free, right? And then the opposite of that is it's free and everybody's consenting and it's whatever. And then the opposite of that is trying to control in every single way that you can't masturbate, or you can't fucking do this, or you can't do that, and you can't say this, and you can't, and all of that control contorts it. Is that it? Like?
Absolutely. But that's like, sexuality was so different. Like, okay, so to get a little academic, so there's a place called the Secret Museum in Naples. So that was Victorian explorers went into Pompeii. Now, so the Victorians, as the stereotype goes, were very sexually repressed, and you couldn't even see a hint of an ankle and they'd be freaked out about it. So that's the stereotype, even though that's not particularly true, but we'll get onto that in another conversation. So they went to Pompeii and they were like, oh, we're digging all this amazing stuff, and then they came across Pompeii was just full of like penises everywhere, brothels everywhere, like all these frescoes that were just graphic, and just sex everywhere. And they were so freaked out by this. They were like, maybe it's just, maybe it's a once off. And the more they kept digging, the more they were like, okay, we can't actually ignore this anymore. So they locked it all up away from public view, hence like the secret museum. So no women were allowed to see it, in case they were like, overcome with emotion and would faint and stuff. And poor men weren't allowed to see it because they were too brute and they wouldn't be able to control their response and would see it and go out and rape everyone. Right? And you're like, okay.
Sorry, I should be laughing at that. God, if you take that 2 seconds of our chat, it's kind of it would look good
in the middle of it. And then so the only people allowed to see it, and obviously children weren't allowed to see it, so the only people allowed to see it were like rich men, like rich upper class men and stuff. So you have that level of control, and they were viewed good enough to control themselves and stuff. So you had that, and then all the dialogue about it, and then of course the Catholic Church came into play, and the Catholic Church were like, you can only have sex in marriage if it's for reproduction, and burn in hell if you have any pleasure from the whole thing. So like the kind of first porn book came out around the 16th kind of century, like Argentino's 16 Pleasures, and it was like a book of sonnets with like engravings of people having sex. And of course that was like when the first book's banned by the Pope. But then of course that immediately made it super popular. So that was the first kind of control, I suppose, kind of coming in. And then Victorian times, everyone was like, oh, if you do this you're a pervert, if you do this you're a pervert, if you do this you're a pervert. And that's when the control kind of got even more cemented.
Did it come out of it as well, though, this idea, or did I read this, that if a priest was to have gotten married and have kids, then money could leave the church?
Let's see that as well. Yeah.
Is that?
So it was time, like you have the Industrial Revolution as well, so you have that control of land and stuff as well. So if you can put people into marriage, it means that there's no strange babies that can turn up and claim all your land and stuff. So that very controlling kind of thing. So it was double-ended. It was kind of moralistic and like capitalistic, I suppose.
Yeah, money.
Yeah. So, which controls a lot of things nowadays, even still around sex and stuff. Yeah. So those kind of two things kind of running in tandem created this world where, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do that. And it's just, we're still shaking that off.
We're definitely in Ireland still. I think my generation maybe is the last, but it'll fucking... You see, it'll come back.
But in 1999...
they're on the way back. They're making a good comeback in terms of the church. Yeah. My kids came back last February with a big fucking bit of ash on their forehead. And I said to them, the priest ask, was it okay to ram his finger on your forehead? Yeah. And they didn't even the consideration that they should ask.
Yeah. I think they would have learnt about touching children unconsensually by now.
Yeah.
But
you would think.
In 1999, there was a TD who reported the sex ed materials in school as pornographic to the guards. And you know yourself, at that stage, it was hardly pornographic. Like, they were the basic things. It's like, that was not that long ago. What are we on now? That's 19 years at this stage. Like, 19 years and you're still up to that. And even nowadays,
you see those fuckers, the people who really go out and they're the really, really conservative, they're the wildest fuckers, and it's all they're just trying to control that wild.
The and ones who always vote for anti-LGBT legislation are always the ones caught like with a rent boy in the office,
few cocks in the mouth.
Always.
I mean, but it almost kind of fits. Say, for example, you're trying not to eat chocolate.
Yeah. All you can think about.
So unless you really want to fuck yourself up, you're not going to walk into a chocolate shop. And in other words, you're just going to close down the chocolate shops just to make it easier for yourself.
There's one guy, there's a commission by the US government on if porn is good or bad or not. So it's all these people investigating, like, should we allow porn basically to be legal and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And most of the commission were like, it's all right, like, you know, we can't control what consenting adults do in their own house and all this kind of stuff. So one guy decided, no, that's not good enough, porn is bad. He's kind of like the Ronan Mullins of the 8th Committee, you know, just disruptive and moralistic and Catholic and all the rest.
It's very difficult to deal with those sorts of people. But
they're hard. But he was like, no, I disagree, wrote his own report and all the rest. And then it turns out he had a massive collection of child porn in his office just to show people how bad it was. So anyone who came to his office, he'd be like, look at this awful material. And you're going, that's fascinating, because most people would not want child porn, which is actually an awful term. It's like film child abuse, anywhere near them, let alone in your office, and show it
even
to
a
people.
Conversation about it, the average person can't handle a conversation about
and
it.
Yeah,
it's
he
so
was
bad.
like, look at all this. So there's a field of thought that it's called like there's erodophilia and erotophobia. And now I'm going to get them mixed up now. Erodophilia is more like you're kind of, if you look at the speech patterns, like people who are opposed to porn, they always pick the worst examples. They're like, it's all women being fucked with their head down a toilet, or it's all this like pounding, you know, and it's all these graphic descriptions and stuff, and it's almost like they're getting off on that.
Talking about that. There's
a feeling about that. And then erotophobia then as well is more like that fear of sex. And I think there's a lot of that it's kind of undiagnosed.
Well, do you know, there's a
you know?
There's a book called There's a book called The People of the Lie, and it's Gregory Peck, and there's I think he wrote the book also, The Road Less Travelled, and in it he talks about the people of the lie, and basically what he said is a great quote. It's something like, people who are inclined to do extremely bad things, how they can overcome that is they're seen to be in the most opposite positions in life, so that they will be there'll be a bishop, there'll be
the pillar of the community,
the pillar of the community, and it's almost there they can hide in plain sight. And so there, the way you're talking about that, it has to be that then. So you know, you can't see me now, but I'm in as close as I possibly can.
Absolutely.
So I, you know, in a priest, I'm the protector of children. Am I great? And children come on to me, and then really, because I think the average, and this is terrible, men get impatient around kids. So now that's a big, I shouldn't really even fucking say that, but they do get impatient after a period of time. They're not able for it. They kind of just go, okay, you know, I have enough now, go on and play with your own fucking toys and don't be annoying me. Whereas this thing of constantly willing to be able to, you know, volunteer for it and all. I don't know, you see. I wonder about it.
You go.
That sounds fucking terrible, actually. That sounds terrible.
But I think there's a lot of people who will get jobs in those industries that gives them access to the people that they want access to. So you'll see a lot of teachers and scout leaders and all the rest and stuff. So that's unfortunately been a thing.
And so sorry, what that's within there?
Like if you're talking about like bishops who abuse kids and stuff, it's like, you go to where you can get access, and also that veneer of respectability, so people wouldn't suspect you and stuff. So people always have that stereotype of a paedophile as like a dirty old man in a white van and stuff, and you're like, it's not, it's your next door neighbour and stuff. And
I think you can't go lax ever on background checks and all that sort of thing, really.
Well, I came back, I lived and worked in England for a while, and I came back in like 2008 to get jobs in au pair, and they didn't do any guarded checks, and I was like, what? I would not, like, obviously it's not going to cover everything. It doesn't, you know, it just means you haven't got caught in anything, but that's the basic that you should get. Now they've brought it in now finally, but I think it was only 2012 or something they brought that in, and it's like, it's a bit late.
I mean, I'm sure there is loads and loads of really, really good, I'm qualifying now, but there's loads of really good volunteers.
Absolutely.
But it is that the veneer, the veneer is a great word. It's almost when somebody is so ultra.
But it's like Ireland has this veneer of like good Catholic Ireland where no one did anything, and then you scratch the surface and there are swingers parties every night of the week around Ireland, and you know, there's dogging, and it's like, we're too cold to be dogging, like Jesus,
fuck's
like
sake.
you know, it's just, we're not a warm country, we're not able for stuff like that. Or like, you know, we're this great Catholic country where people go to mass every Sunday, but then it's like underneath the surface there's consensual sex and non-consensual sex and like all the history that we had and stuff. So it's that question of not looking at how we talk about ourselves, but looking at the actions,
the truth
that are
of it.
there.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've a while to go. So, yeah. But it's not all doom and gloom. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Well, when you're talking about 20-year-olds like that being able to give advice and talking freely about it, it's pretty cool. All right, yeah.
But there is still, I know there's a few months ago there was a swingers party in Shankill, I think it was, in a wedding venue that I'd actually looked at as a wedding venue. So I suppose they picked a good spot. It was very classy looking.
Yeah.
And the Sunday World, I think it was, sent in a reporter undercover and took photos and everything else. And you're going, so we still live in that world where people think that that's an okay thing to do, and splashed on the front page of a newspaper. It's like they're all adults, it's all consensual, like, and it's still something that sells stories. So, you know, we still have that interest in.
Sorry, say that again. The Sunday World guy went in to take pictures of.
Yeah, so pretended they were a swinger and brought in a camera undercover in a handbag or whatever it was, and like took pictures and videos of people going about their business at their consensual swingers party, and made it into, I think it was like a 4-page spread in the newspaper. But the great part about that was the owner of the place said, I didn't mind, they cleaned up after themselves, so they're welcome back again. It's like brilliant.
Well, you see, but those pictures will then make it. It is then seedy. Yeah. You know, it's portrayed as seedy. I mean, anything Sunday World with more than likely awkward looking pictures as opposed to proper pictures.
Like a bit night vision-y kind of. Night vision never implies class. Or
well, it doesn't. It's underhand. It's always going to be that. So
the fact, but I don't know why we need to go down that route. There are people who are part of those communities that would happily put their hand up and go, do you want to talk to me about it? I'll talk to you about it. Like anonymous or not, whatever the person is into. But you don't have to do that. You don't have to go undercover anymore. Like it's we did the interview last year with the guy who organised what was it? It wasn't quite swinging parties. I think it was orgies. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, cuddle is a lovely way to put it. That's a great word.
Yeah. They're two different things.
No, this was orgies, definitely. And but he didn't want his face being seen.
Oh, okay.
So then, of course, we blocked out his face. But just in looking back at it now, I mean, as soon as you block out his face, you're making it way more than it is.
That's the thing.
And we were then, probably focusing in on the more explicit things for the sake of it. Sure, look, we were having a go.
But people have curiosity about it though as well, because that's not an everyday occurrence for the majority of people and stuff. So you do ask the questions, and also like the logistics of it as well.
Yeah, well, I was at the end of it. I came out going, "Holy fuck." I just know nothing of what's going on. I know nothing.
You're such a virgin.
Yeah, I was so naive. Holy fuck, like, it was just unreal. And he was kind of saying, at these sorts of parties that really, people might go in there all conservative, but by the end of it, by God, are they getting stuck in? I think that's mental. Come here, in terms of Holland, say Holland, you could you look at Holland and go, wow, they don't have any of that religious sort of stuff. They don't have that same control. It is quite liberal.
Absolutely.
What is does that come into your studies at all? Like how are they doing in terms of female and male? How are they doing in terms of that?
Well, they know that they start their sex ed really young in school, and it's kind of a very liberal approach and calm conversations about consent with it, no religious nonsense and stuff. So they've really low rates of like teen pregnancy. Like they've higher rates of people losing their virginity for the first time. I think it's 17 or 18 or something like that. But higher than 13, 14 and stuff, which is awfully young. And they've lower rates of abortion and stuff as well, but they've also got a better abortion regime and stuff as well. And then, of course, you have the red light district as well, so that's a whole different kettle of fish and stuff. So that's interesting how it's regulated like that. But then prostitution and porn they're always conflated as if they're the exact same thing, and they're not. They're really different things. Like porn is you know who you're going to see. You have a contract with, you know, your co-star, and you can say no to who your co-star is. Like, they have no lists.
Okay.
And you agree in advance, I'm doing XYZ for X amount of money, and you're performing the two people for the camera, for the audience, whereas prostitution obviously is, you know, you might not know who's coming in the door, and you agree there and then, and it's about you're gratifying that person, whereas porn, you're gratifying the audience. You don't, not necessarily with the co-worker as such. And it's different labour conditions and all that kind of thing, different safety at work and all that kind of thing. So it's not helpful to conflate the two.
Yeah.
So they're completely different and stuff. But again,
the daily life and culture
and how it's approached and stuff.
Yeah, things. There's stats like things like
cons.
rape and attack cases and all that.
I wouldn't know them off the top of my head now. So
I'm just curious to know: is that society? Does it work? Are they better, happier, more content sexually? Are women and men better off?
They rate higher, I think, on a list of happiness and stuff for a lot of things, and you can have more conversations, I think, there that are in the open, because obviously they've got like the legalization of weed and stuff as well.
Yeah.
That most of the locals don't even go near, because that's more of a tourist thing. So there's that argument of, if you legalise everything, it's out in the open and it takes away that taboo factor, and it's not as, you know, some people get off on the seediness of things and all that kind of thing. So I mean, there's pros and cons, but it would be nice to get to that stage.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
So open about it,
does that overall, is that you would have thought when everything's out in the light, then you kind of go, it isn't a thing anymore, and it's only when things are hidden in the darkness that it's kind of the unspoken of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're kind of like, as well as having the better conversations, you're hopefully ensuring people are safer as well. It's like that thing of like harm reduction for a lot of things, whether it's drugs or sex or alcohol or rock and roll and all the rest of it. So if you're hoping people are more educated and self-informed and safer, and that's the goal for a lot of things. So
I think sorry, I'm my half eye is caught by the red flashing light. Could you see the red? Did you see it's flashing there? So fucking hell, we've gone over the hour. We might chat again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a boundless.
It's a rabbit hole of sex.
It
That's
really
why
is.
It's so exciting, because it never ends. It's like once you think you've heard it all, you haven't. It's just you've only heard the tip of the iceberg. So,
thank you very much.
Yo, thank you. Yeah.
Cheers. Hi, if you like the conversation that I just had and you'd like more, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. Frank, come on, man.